You've probably seen the videos and photos, and I'm always in this gray hooded sweatshirt. Well, it's the Duckworth powder hoodie. I absolutely love this thing from even my August, September, all through October, all my November hunts, through the winter and into the spring. I love this thing. The hood on it is perfect, which is a big deal for me. It's got full coverage, keeps the sun out of my eyes when I need it to. It's self-regulating, like it just regulates heat better than anything I've ever had as far as a just a hooded sweatshirt goes. And that's why I wear it so much. So we have a deal going on with schnees.com. If you head on over there and use the code STEALTHY at checkout, not only will you get free shipping, but you will also be supporting the show.
All right. What are we talking about today?
I hear we're talking about goats.
Oh my gosh. I get so many DMs and emails from guys asking about goats. And let me tell you, I literally know nothing about these goats. I just help take care of them. So I figured Ryan better get on here and do a podcast.
There's 3 questions I get all the time. It's something to do with goats, something to do with the crazy diet that I'm doing right now, or it's, what is that hippie hoodie you're wearing, the gray hippie hoodie? In the Duckworth. But it's a lot of goat questions. Everything from, how are they working for you, to what breeds, how expensive are they, how much do they carry, where can they go? People saw us using llamas for years. Why did we switch from llamas? All those kind of questions. So we figured instead of me thumbing out messages to people, which I hate, takes up all my evening, we just knock out a podcast and kind of go through all the questions that I've seen and talk through them real quick and give a brief on where we're at with pack goats. We've been, we started off with 5. Now we had pack goats years ago, a decade ago, that we ended up giving away because we just weren't using them. We gave them, well, we lost a couple, and then we gave Doc and Dave to old Ryan Avery over there at Shoot to Hunt, and since then we had no stock animals. We haven't had llamas yet, but we recently got back into the pack goats, and I picked up a set of 5 from a gentleman over in Idaho, and these were goats that were at the perfect stage to start packing. They were 4 years old when I got them, which is the year that you can pack goats with full weight. You spend the first 3 years training them, keeping them in shape, but you do not put heavy weight on them. A little bit of weight. We've had our youngsters up on some trips with, 10% of their body weight, 15% on our 3-year-olds recently, which now they're going to take more. But it's year 4 that you put full weight on your goats. And so right now my goats are 5+ years old, and I've had them on a lot of trips, got a lot of experience. We're very fortunate to be able to put a lot of miles on the mountain with these goats. So this year got some really good trips in, and they've done great so far. I've got 5 studs, like I said, in my original group. We then picked up a loner in Jupiter from Avery, and he's a problem child for sure.
Yeah.
He's the one dam raised goat that I have, and he is hard to catch. He's very suspicious. He's hard to work with. And we have tried to build trust in this goat for a while. And it's funny because sometimes he's cool. He'll let you get his collar, lead him out, put him in the trailer, go for a hike. Sometimes you ain't having it. And all the other goats will go but him. And he's sitting there in the pen by himself because he didn't allow me to catch him. And I don't have a herding dog, so I can't use a herding dog to get him loaded. So a lot of times he's just not going right now, which is a problem. But my original 5 are beasts, and I don't have like the world's greatest string of goats. It's kind of a motley crew. My smallest goat is like 160 pounds, which is pretty small, in Mo, and he's an Oberhasli. And yet he's one of my favorite goats. You know, I think people get a little stuck on looking for long-legged, big 200 plus, 220, 250 pound goats. And that's not always the best thing to have. Number one, oftentimes those giant goats wear out quicker, more prone to injury, I feel like. And they may not have heart like another goat has. Now, Jupiter, if I could ever catch him, he has all the heart. I mean, that goat will pack whatever I ask him to pack. He never stops. He never lays down. When we're all breaking and the other goats are breaking with a big load on, he just stands there like, why are we standing here? We should be going. And then this little guy, Mo, he's a stud. He's always in my back pocket. He's always there. And he's got a wanky back leg that kind of kicks out to the right, unfortunately. So I have no idea how long I'm going to be able to pack with Mo, but he's got a great life doing it right now, and we'll just see how long we get out of him. But like I said, he's a small goat. He's just got a lot of heart, so he's always right there, even with heavy weight. And then I've also got his kind of his buddy. They always have a buddy. When you raise them, you always want to raise them in sets of 2 so they're not outcasts. When they join another group, they always have that buddy. And his buddy is Joe, another Ober. So those are my 2 Oberhaslis. They're not the biggest goats, but they do really, really well. And then I guess we'll talk about the breed. So Alpines are a known pack goat breed that has been tried and true. They can be aggressive with each other. They bang heads, but they're athletic. I've got Crag, who is a full Alpine, long-legged, very good conformation to him. He is extremely good, very gentle. I've never had any issues with him. He's just like Mo. Mo and Crag are my favorite goats. Always in my pocket, always kind of leaning up on me. And he's never, like if I got to throw 60, 62 pounds on a goat, I'm putting it on Crag. And he never has any problems at all. So he's my true Alpine. And then I've got a mix of, I've got Rue, who's got Alpine, Ober, and a little bit of Boer in him, like an 8th Boer. So he's a little fatter than the rest. He's kind of a hog. Boer is a meat goat. And they will just keep eating food if you let them. So he'll get fatter than, I've never seen Crag out of shape with a hay belly or anything like that. He's just a lean goat always. And then Crag's the opposite, or Rue's the opposite. He will get a hay belly if you let him. But very strong goat, very gentle, it's kind of always there, steady Eddie. And then I got Sam. He's a little crazy. He's your goat. He has got a quarter Alpine. For some reason, he like took to hill when we first got him. He's like, he wanted to kind of like snuggle up to her.
Is that what you're saying? He's
a little spazzy. Spazzy is like the word I use with Sam. Like if I leave the door open to the trailer just enough, like he will leap out of it, jump out of it. No regards for what's on the other side or anything. He's kind of out there. He
backs up the back all the time in a train. He's in the back and he's like
always tries to get out. He's worried about that mountain lion coming back behind him.
Behind all the time, and I'm usually in the very back. So I'm usually like, "Come on, Sam, let's go. You can do this. And nobody's here. It's just me. Let's go." He's very cautious.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he's an Alpine, and I think he's got a quarter Ober in him. But another great goat. He packs really well. He's not the biggest goat. but he's about 180 pounds or so. He's really lean right now. All my goats are really lean right now. After a season, they lean out for sure. But then I have, since that original five, Jupiter is an Alpine. I've got two La Manchas, and they're the little elf-eared guys. You know, when you see them, it looks like their ears are frozen off. They look like a little elf. Those are my 3-year-olds, and those are going to be studs. They're going to be, and we took them on some trips. We took them on a big summer trip this year, and they did good. I didn't carry a lot of weight. I ran soft saddles on them, kind of a training pack. But tonight, actually, they're going with me. We're going to go chase some mule deer. They're getting the regular Mark Warnke saddles on them, and they're getting some more weight. This will be their heaviest weight to date, and hopefully I get them packing some deer off the mountain this time. But they're going to be really good, and I like the La Mancha breed. Very easy. They're pretty calm overall. Not as aggressive as the Alpines. Now, my La Manchas do have a little bit of Alpine, an 8th Alpine in them. But I think the Pat Goat world is kind of taken to them for those reasons. So then we've got our 2 youngest goats who are 6 to 7 months, somewhere in there. Maybe 7.5 months now. And yeah, they're little La Manchas, a little bit of Alpine in one of them. And really, I think we got some winners in these two. But we have to wait years to get them to where we're packing, unfortunately. But right now, we're just trying to keep them growing. And so I castrated them, basically. Used a little California bander. Took their little nuts off. And so they didn't go do the rut thing, which if you're gonna get into goats and you have neighbors, you might not want a buck that you allow to go into rut, because goats with their nuts stink. They stink. They stink bad. Like this whole valley.
Why do they stink?
So we have one
Stetson.
buck. We have one buck right now. His name is Stetson, and he's only a year and a half old. Well, pushing closer to 2 now, I guess. But he's the only buck I have who's not had his nuts removed, not been castrated, and yeah, he stinks. And it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate
that is
because
literally, to put it lightly,
yeah,
you
it's bad.
cannot walk out the front door. Literally, our goats are in the back. We have 5 acres. They are in the back. If you walk out the front door, you will get hit with a smell that is so
I think everybody,
disturbing.
well, at least I knew when I grew up, like there was always that chained up billy goat somewhere.
Yeah. Whew.
And you always avoided it because I mean, you knew it was there. It just stinks. And we've got one of those going on right now. I picked up this really big, beautiful buck in Stetson, an all black Alpine, and he's a monster. He actually is, yeah, he's not even 2 yet, and he dominates. Like, he owns every goat in my pen. And these other goats were probably feeling pretty tough until Stetson walked in. And when we first got him, he wasn't ruddy, he didn't stink, he was great. Super sweet goat, and then, hormones. And we've got ourselves a stinky goat. And the only reason he's still like that is because I'm breeding him, and we're going to be breeding him this month. So we'll have some, late winter, early spring babies. And I'm really curious what those turn out to be. But he's got good size. He's very sweet. He was bottle raised. And then he's just huge. He's got big old horns on him. He's a cool looking goat. He's got like this hairdo thing going on. He's got the beard,
like
but he's also got like bangs that whip up.
Bangs. He's kind of got like a mullety looking weird thing.
Super sweet goat, but he stinks to high heaven.
Yeah, and he will chase you. He I don't know if he chases you when you come in, but he chases me. He literally,
ruddy buck, their eyeballs get all crazy.
He just chases.
It's got the tongue thing going all over the place, like ruddy goats do. which will go away when we snip him. So we
I
got
feel
that going
bad
on.
for him. He needs some serious help because it's really got to be miserable.
Ruddy goats are crazy weird.
And what is it with the ruddy goat? Like his urine is like a yellow. Is that him out there? That just the really yellow urine that looks like he's spraying neon yellow everywhere. I
don't
mean,
know.
you haven't noticed that?
No, I'm not looking at the urine.
I noticed that this
Where are you
summer
seeing the
earlier.
urine?
It's
Like,
not like it's like little pockets of almost this color, like orange, yellow, and it's kind of neon. And I was thinking maybe that was his scent.
yeah, he's definitely kicking out scent out of his glands. His face, you don't dare touch his face or you ain't getting that off for the rest of the day. So I kind of stiff arm him and, I usually don't grab onto horns or anything like that. But with him, you kind of have to keep from his face getting on you. And I don't want to just keep him separated away from the other ones because they play and they do all kinds of fun stuff out there. But on the other hand, it is a pain to have a stinky goat, a ruddy goat, when you have all the other goats that want to like rub up on you. They want to be petted and all that kind of stuff. So unfortunately, we're dealing with that, but not too much longer. And we'll get him bred, and then we're going to move on. And he's just going to turn into a pack goat. He won't be a breeder like he is right now. And then, yeah, so I've got a lot of young goats kind of waiting in the wings at this point, and they're all going to be, I feel like, superstars. And, over time, my motley crew of small to big goats that I've got now, it'll be a real strong pack group. But, and I've actually, I'm actually taking 6 of the goats tonight, and we're going for a rip for some mule deer, late season stuff. And I'm going to take the 3-year-olds along with 4 of the my original herd. So they're going to come with me. The 3-year-olds are going to get some work and yeah, put
You're
a little
not
bit
gonna
more
take
weight on them.
Stetson?
No, you don't take the rutted out
Oh,
goat on a hunt
darn.
because then everything stinks. And like I said, good luck getting that stink off your hands. If you get anywhere near those glands and
Oh,
that nasty stuff,
I can smell that smell. If
bad.
there is a drop of that smell anywhere in the house,
Yeah,
I
if
can
he-
smell it.
if he
Ryan one
somehow
day
rubs
came
up on
in
my
after the
pants or
goats
whatever.
yesterday before church or whatever, and I was like, okay, I smell the goat, and it was on his pants. Like I could smell it like
Can't believe she didn't
that
want me to
far
go to
away.
church with
I was like,
goat
you
stink.
better go change your pants.
Anyway, so let's talk about some of the reasons why I got goats. We've done films with the llamas before, and I hunted with llamas 30 years ago. We had a group of 4 that we picked up, and then we kind of got out of it. We hunted them for a decade, and then we got out of it. And then recently, I've rented some llamas from Bo Beatty with Wilderness Ridge. We've used Mark's llamas. Mark's hoarding llamas over there. He's got like 50 llamas now. A lot of them are females. But he's got llamas that we've used on bear hunts, mule deer hunts, and whatnot. But we've had some issues. I don't know that there is a perfect pack animal out there. There's cons with everything, including goats. And with llamas, the biggest reason I didn't go for llamas, because we wanted to get a couple. My daughter, Tana, absolutely loves llamas. She sleeps with her little stuffed llama animal every night. And she really wanted to have one, but they are so expensive now. The price has gotten outrageously high, unaffordable for most of us. And literally, you can't pick up, maybe you could find one on Craigslist, but it's probably not going to be the best llama or even remotely what you're looking for in a pack llama. $8,500, $10,000 for a llama, and you need a string of 4 if you're going to do it right. And so, yeah, it's very, very expensive. And beyond that, when you lose a llama, which we've lost 3 llamas in the last few years, one tripped. He was staked out. We were glassing. He literally tripped. He kind of stumbled over a log, got his neck and the rope lead pulled back one way, and his body went this way and suffocated, and we lost him. It's a $10,000 llama we just lost. We had spring bears is like notorious for ticks, a lot of ticks in these mountains. And they're very susceptible to tick paralysis, which kills llamas if you don't have them vaxxed and hit them with ivermectin going into the trip. You may have issues with tick paralysis, which we did. We lost one of Mark's biggest llamas, giant. This is over a 400-pound llama. And he was taken down and killed by literally a tick bite. And there was more than that. We almost lost a couple others on that trip, but we saved them. Amy ran, got ivermectin, brought it back, jacked them full of ivermectin, and all those ticks vacated and saved their lives. But that is just to say that when you lose a $10,000 llama, that is painful. It hurts, sets you back. Very, 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 very expensive. So, I started thinking about goats. Goats are not that. They're not unaffordable. They're fairly cheap, actually. And the other thing with goats is I don't have to lead them. I don't have to pack food for them. They go where I go. If I can go there, they can go there, is how it works with goats. And they're cheap. I can pick up a goat for 500, 600, 700 bucks versus the alternative. And, once you invest in the gear, the saddles, the panniers, there's definitely some investment there, but still it's not as bad as llamas. You're pretty good and you're pretty set, and it actually becomes very affordable. But my reason for the goats is they go where I go. Like we like to hunt some pretty crazy stuff, rocky, spring bear, nasty avshoot type places. And we can't get those llamas there, but we can just hike it up and let the goats follow us, which they do. So that was a big plus. And that's one of the biggest reasons why I love the goats. I don't even have to think about them. I load them up. I put the lead, kind of wrap it around their neck in case I need to stake them down for a quick minute, or at the end of the day, and I walk and they follow me. So it's really nice that I'm not having to carry that lead and, figure out where I can get the llama to move and walk around. And dude, goats just hop up on rocks and logs just for fun. Even with loaded panniers, they're still like balancing on these toothpick areas, deadfall areas, and they can somehow get through it if it's not too tall. Now, obviously, they're not magic. There's limitations with goats as well, but generally, if I can get there, the goats can get there, and so that's one of the reasons I like them. The other thing is they're very easy to deal with. I mentioned I don't pack food back in there. They eat what's there. They're kind of like a deer. They browse, and they like leaves and sticks and bark. And they'll eat grass if they have to. They don't prefer it. They're not a grazer like an elk is just out in a meadow. They don't really prefer to eat the grass. They like the leafy stuff. And so when I go on these trips, if I go up chasing mule deer or elk, they just eat what's there. So at the end of the day, and there's all kinds of things you can do, from high lining them, low lining them. What I like to do, my preferred way, is I just like to stake them down at the end of the day. So when I take my 5 or 6 up there, I drop my TP, I stake them down, all 5, very close. So I know if danger comes in. The downside to having them that close is I can hear them chewing their cud. Fortunately, I can kind of sleep right through that. There's like a fine line of too close and not too far away, because they'll chew their cud literally all night if they're too close. I think Hillary, if we had them staked that close, she'd have the earplugs in, because she wouldn't be able to sleep.
I wear earplugs every night anyways. I'm good.
Yeah. But what else? What should I talk about?
With the goats?
I'll keep going down the list of pros, I guess.
Yeah, I mean,
and there
I
are some cons.
don't even know why
I'll
I'm
go through
in
the
this
cons.
podcast, because I don't go out in the hills
So
with
I was
him
saying
very
they're
much,
very easy
but we did go out this summer.
with the food, and they're very easy at the end of the day. I just stake them out and unstake them in the morning and let them graze around
Did you
and do their
mention,
thing.
did I miss this? But we stake them when we go because they literally want to be in your business.
Yeah,
They will want to eat dinner with you. Like they want to be right there, like in camp
they'll
with
sit
you.
right there next to the
Yeah.
campfire. If you're chit-chatting around the campfire, they'll literally cozy up right to you. Mo, I've only got one goat that wants to be in the teepee, and it's cute and he's just a little sweetheart, but he got in my teepee one time and he just destroyed my center pole. He got freaked out. Something spooked him and he shattered my center pole. So that's never happened since. I don't let him anywhere near it, but I have to make sure I shut the door or he will find his way inside that teepee. But yeah, he just wants to be next to you. So I always stake him. When I stake them, they're usually 5, 6 feet away from the teepee. Sometimes a little bit further, depends on the ground you're staking them in and all that. But again, very easy to use. And as far as capabilities, depends on the size of your goat. They'll say 25% of their body weight. So a 200-pound goat, 50 pounds is kind of the norm for most pack goats. A lot of guys, it's 30, 40, 50 pounds. And some of the bigger goats, I mean, they're literally 60, 70 pounds. Like I mentioned, my buddy Ryan, he's got a goat that he'll just take two of them and he'll put 70 pounds on his goats, which is awesome. Less animals to saddle, less panniers to deal with, and a lot of weight. So, eventually I'd like to be able to have a couple of goats that could carry that much, but I'll get 60, 62 pounds on Crag, and he'll do that all day long.
Yeah.
Recently, I just got back from an elk trip, and I brought 5 goats. I should have brought 6. It's one of those mornings that Jupiter just didn't want to get caught. And so I brought 5 and killed a bull, and it was a big bull. So, you're looking at about 300 pounds of meat, and somewhere in that range, 275 to 300 pounds. So you can do the math. I ended up having to put over 50 pounds on all of the goats. Crag was at 62-ish. And you always have a scale. You make sure the panniers are within a pound or two on each side, usually a pound. And each goat was 55 to 60 pounds on that trip. And then I had what I had in my pack. So I could have used another goat and it would have made the pack out a lot easier. But it was a 7-mile trip out. I still have my weapon on me. That always stays on me. That doesn't go on the goats, obviously. And my spotter. And that's kind of what I carry. And the goats carry everything else. But that was a kind of a classic trip where it was the perfect pack animal for the place I was, because I was running through steep country, up steep, down steep, rocky, craggy stuff, these little spine ridges where I really wouldn't have a whole lot of confidence in like a llama, but the goats, they just seem to stick to that stuff. Now I still get worried, like there's little rock ridges where my goats will literally just like a mountain goat walk out. And not all rocks are solid, and they're literally just like standing perched on this knife ridge where if they fall, they're toast. And so I always worry about it, but it's really hard to keep them from looking off ledges, I've found. It's kind of like when I'm mule deer hunting, they want to beat me to the ridge and look over the other side before I do, which for mule deer hunters, you would think that's a downside. And that leads me to one of the biggest benefits of these, which I shouldn't talk about, but I'll mention it. And that is, it almost feels like cheating sometimes with these goats, because they're kind of like a live decoy for mule deer, for elk, for bear. I I arrowed a bear this year at 10 yards. He came in and my goats are literally standing right behind me. He hits the brakes. I'd called that bear in and I arrowed him right there. But he was like, whoa, what is this? And the goats don't freak out, but they perk up. They see things sooner than you generally see things, and which is also a benefit. But llamas do the same thing. Llamas always notify us if like a bear is in camp, or if there's elk on the hill. You know, they'll pick up on that. But as far as being a decoy, these goats will literally run up onto the top of that ridge and skyline themselves, which is something we try to avoid. But we're two-legged animals versus these four-legged animals. And often what I've found on a few mule deer hunts in the last couple years is the animals immediately see something crawling over the ridge. They alert, they pick up on it. And then they're looking at it and it's like, oh, it's a herd of something. And they just go back to doing what they were doing before, sleeping, feeding, and it calms them right down. And then here I come up onto the ridge. And it's funny because typically in your training, you keep your goats behind you. You always want to keep them behind you, or they're always getting in your way and it just messes up your stride. But I have not found a way to keep them behind me when I am very close to cresting a ridge. They just got to get in front of me and look. And so, you know, I thought originally there was going to be a downside to that, or a detriment, and it's not. It's actually really helped. So mule deer calm down. We're able to lay down, get prone, get a good shot, and that's happened multiple times. In fact, I was just on this hunt. I was just on this elk hunt. The bucks are rutting. I saw a lot of really nice mule deer rutting around, moving through country, checking does, scrapping with each other, raking. And I had the 5 goats. It just snowed that night, and I'm glassing, and I've been watching these 2 bucks, one really nice buck and then a heavy 4-point. And I kind of lose sight of them. They actually go down. I'm like, oh, they're going to get in my scent line. They're going to probably boogie. Well, my goats are right behind me, like 30 yards behind me, feeding. And I kind of forgot about it. I turned around. I was going to glass this mountain, and I'm looking, and I just kind of look down, and there's this big old mule deer buck standing there. He's not looking at me. He's looking at the goats, and the goats have his attention. I mean, if this had been an archery mule deer hunt, I could have arrowed this big buck all day long. I'm literally standing in the open. I'm not trying to be, you know, sneaky or anything. And that buck got closer. He walked right through the middle of them. They pick their head up. They look at him. You literally got this rutted out, big, thick-necked buck standing there 10 feet from crag. He's like, yeah, whatever. And he just goes back to feeding. And this deer is just like, has no fear at all of the goats. He's very curious. He walks through my scent line. So I don't know. I can't figure out how he didn't spook from my scent, unless their scent just masked my scent to the point that they didn't hit. That buck didn't care. He wasn't that rutted out. I mean, they get crazy, but still, scent to scent, they usually go the other way. Well, this goat, or this buck, came through, wandered around my goats for a while. I got pretty cool video of it. Then he went right back through my scent line and disappeared. 10 minutes later, here he comes again, right through the middle of my goats, walks right past us, never even looks at me, never even saw me. I'm just standing there in the open. Goes right by my TP and off the ridge. He probably blew out once he got over there, but yeah, it was really cool. It's really cool to see. This big old buck came right in, and you know, obviously you're thinking, wow, it's like a live decoy out here. But elk are the same way. They're very curious. They see me walking up this ridge, and if I stay off the ridge a bit and my goats are on the ridge, they look at them, but they don't run like they would if it was just me or me and a buddy. We got a film drop on the 17th of this month, next weekend, Sunday, and the giveaway runs through December 1st. So the very first one is a wolf film. I think it's really good, it tells a really good story. We're excited about that, and this giveaway is going to be kind of a collab with Gritty and ourselves. And there's a lot of items here. It's a very big ticket giveaway. Probably the biggest thing on this giveaway is whoever wins it is going to join us in Alberta, either either in 2025 or 2026. So there's a wolf hunt giveaway with Timber King Outfitters. Also, Weatherby has thrown in a gift card. Use that gift card however you'd like at Weatherby. So every $10 spent at Stealthy Hunter or at Gritty gets you an entry. And then like Hill said, if you do purchase a pass for Western Hunting Summit, that gets you 150 entries.
So there's 3 websites that you want to check out: stealthyhunter.com, westernhuntingsummit.com. There's also links at stealthyhunter.com to get there, and then gritty.com. Purchase anywhere there, use the code WOLF, and you will be able to get entered into the giveaway. Ladies, this is a great time to get your husbands an amazing Christmas gift. So you can check all of this out, and we will have all this information at stealthyhunter.com.
Another upside to having goats is they kind of calm the animals down, which is not something I ever thought of when I got them. Mm-hmm. There's not many cons to having goats, in my opinion. But I'll go through what I know. So I think, when you're hiking in, now we're accustomed to we go in 10 miles. We got a 50 to 60 pound pack on and we bomb as fast as we can. We get into the country and we live out of that backpack. Your speed goes down just a little bit. You got to have a little bit slower pace. Now, if this was Brian Call walking my goats, they'd probably be on par. It's a slow pace.
They're my pace.
Yeah, they're
faster than me.
And then my pace is just a little bit too fast. So me and Brad, we're going to walk away from our goats. Now, they'll trot back and catch up to you, but as a general rule, I slow it down just a notch. And that's the case with llamas as well. They don't have as fast of a pace as I do. So if that's a con or a pro, whatever. I know Mark Livesey, he likes to say, well, I got to give my llamas breaks. It's usually giving himself a break. So if you're one that needs breaks, hey, llamas or goats, it's going to help you with that because you're going to take a few for sure, especially if you got the goats loaded up. You do have to take some breaks on occasion. There's times where, I fill these 10-liter water bottles up, these Drummels on each side of them, and, they're packing 50 pounds of water. And water is a little bit sloshy. I've figured ways around that now, but it kind of takes it out of them. So they'll take breaks on occasion. And they don't just lay down, but you kind of notice they're starting to drag. And so what I do, I just stop, take my pack off, let them catch up, lay down for a few minutes is all. I don't give them much time. I don't want them to stiffen up or stove up or whatever, but just give them short breaks here and there. And we go all day. I've packed 2 bulls off the mountain this year with the goats, and each of those were between 7 and 8 miles. They did great. They crushed it. Heavyweight. I've packed multiple mule deer off the mountain with these goats, and again, they've done great. The last trip we took 3 mule deer out with 6 goats, and they crushed it. And that was a lot of miles. That was double-digit miles that we put on the goats. One of the cons is they take a little bit longer to get in shape. So your job, if you want to have goats that are effective and they do well for you, is to keep them in shape year round. You can't just take a fat goat out of the hay barn and think you're going to go crush 10 miles in and haul an elk off the mountain. That ain't going to happen. They're going to be out of shape. So, just like a good rip every week, a nice long rip, fast speed, run with them as much as you can. And an in-shape goat is going to be a huge asset to you if you're a guy that gets after it in the backcountry. So that's kind of the key, is having them in good shape when you go in. Otherwise, you're going to bonk, like Mark Livesey bonks. Every year he goes in to the mountains and he expects to hunt himself into shape. Don't do that with goats. Get them ready beforehand, have them ready, and they're going to treat you well when you go get after it. So, when I go do these trips like the one I just did, it was still like, I think first day we climbed 4,200 feet of elevation, and I had some wakes. I didn't really know how much water I could find up there. I figured I was going to run into some snow on the snow slopes and I'd be able to melt snow and whatnot, but I still carried water in. And so yeah, it was a lot of elevation, a lot of steep, 4,200 feet and about 4 miles. So and we crushed it, and they did great. Gave them a little break at the top. What else can I say about them as far as cons go? You do have to keep them in shape. They can be frustrating at times. You can get frustrated with your goats because they do get into stuff. I will say that. They get into stuff. So often in the training, carry a little squirt gun, a little water bottle. You spray them. It kind of set the tone. Like when you're first training goats, oftentimes they'll try to rush past you just while you're hiking, whether it's a single track or just open field. And trying to keep them behind you is the goal. So I'll usually bring a little squirt bottle, and they hate water. It's like acid to them. So when you squirt them in the face, it puts them to the back of the pack for a minute. But that works pretty well.
Well, what I noticed, just a little bit of feedback from our trip that we did this summer, we did a week-long pack trip into the mountains here in Montana, and we used them. It's really phenomenal because they can carry weight, and you really get to have a luxurious camp, which was a great pro, especially when you're taking kids or your wife who may not go camping very often or whatever. It was like a total game changer. The con is that it does, like, they're kind of like horses in a way. Like, there's a lot of prep work to get ready. Like you have to spend a lot of time making sure you have all the gear. And then when you get there,
you're weighing bags.
You are literally like, so when we get there, it's not like you just have like 3 horses or something. You have we had like 7 goats. And so you have to take each one out of the thing. You have to go stake them up someplace different than near their friend. And you have to do that. And then you have to get their saddles on. And then you have to get them loaded. You have to weigh each pack. There's a lot of prep, like getting ready when you get there and you just think you're going to go hiking. Like, it's a couple hours of literally getting them ready to hike up the mountain. But that's not a con. It's just
part of packing.
These are the things that I noticed when I went, is because it depends on how many goats you have. If you have 2 goats, it's probably not a big deal. But if you have like 7 or 9 or whatever, it's like a family affair. Everybody's got to help out because there's a lot of moving parts. Also, the goats that are uncooperative, like Jupiter, you spend a lot of time trying to rally him, trying to catch him, trying to convince him to come eat out of your hand. And he's so cautious. And some days he's totally fine. He will literally walk right up to you and you can pet him. He kind of reminds me of, you're kind of like this in a way. If you make a big deal, like if Ryan does something new and you make a big deal out of it, he's not going to do it again. But if you just act like this is just everyday deal, it's no big deal. He just comes over and you don't try to make a big deal out of it, he'll just keep doing it. So Jupiter's kind of like that. Like, if you make a big deal and you freak out on Jupiter, that makes him even more like,
well, if you try
cautious.
To catch him and he knows you're trying to catch him,
he will not come to you.
If you're just like him hawing around, like conversation, and he's close and you kind of reach out and you get his collar, you're good. So he is a goat that you got to be really careful about because, you don't ever want to lose one. So when we're on the trail, he's easy. You kind of have to know their personality. When he's in the pen, he's hard to catch. When he's on the trail, he's usually tired. He's easy to catch.
But we've had a few
right
trips
next
with
to you,
him
so.
Where he is not easy to catch. And
Yep.
he literally has a sensor in his head that's like, we must be getting close to the truck. We're getting back to the trailer. They're going to try to catch me. Yeah. And it's as if, because in your head, you're thinking, it's like he's reading your mind. You're thinking, okay, we got to start working at getting Jupiter. We got to catch Jupiter. We got to get him on lead. he knows you're thinking that. And you just even try to walk by him,
Oh, he's
he
smart.
goes up on the hill.
Yeah.
He goes behind the trees. He backs up. He won't let you catch him. And it's like he's like reading your mind. So he's a very interesting goat that way. And sometimes I've seen Ryan get very frustrated with him. And I've
Yeah.
heard these stories about where people, Ryan's told me some stories where people have to like leave their goats and whatnot because they're not cooperative. You don't get it until you have an uncooperative goat. Like, what are we going to do? Just stand out there all night? We're going to try to catch him. That means we just have to keep him on lead the whole
Well, he will
time.
follow. He's not going to walk away from us, but he's just hard to get on lead and get in control of sometimes.
Well,
And
if you
this
need to
is
get him in the trailer and he will not come to you.
then what we do is we drive, and then eventually he gets it. Like, eventually he's like, "Well, they're getting away from me," and he's right on your tail, and then he'll load up. But there's all those little games you play. So he's been a goat that I'm still like, it can be very frustrating at times, and I have given him so much time. I just hate giving up on him because he's such a good packer. But he is my frustration for sure. He's the one frustration in the herd. All the other ones are so easy to deal with and so easy to get on lead and saddle up and put the panniers on and deal with. He is a massive frustration. So, but it's kind of like I'll deal with a little bit of frustration if I can throw 60 pounds on him and he goes for 10 miles. But again, he's one that you just got to be very, very careful with, very smart about, where you decide to saddle up and get him on lead again to lead him into the truck. There's like a strategy with him where all the other ones are super easy.
Yeah.
So,
And he's also part of the nice thing about him, and I mean, this is my experience with him, is he is cautious of you, which means he's not very dangerous. Like, he's not, Jupiter's never like come after me. He's
no.
never like tried to like pin me because he's kind of like a standoffish. He'll come up to you and he'll be sweet. Now, some of these other goats who are like Sam, who Ryan calls my goat, you got to watch him a little bit because he's kind of neurotic. He wants to be near you. He wants to be next to you, and he'll like start, maybe moving his head or something. You have to watch his horns. I've never really had that experience with Jupiter because he's kind of always back off, and he's not really,
no
he's not up
aggression
in
at
your
all.
face. So that's the other thing with each goat. You learn their personality, and you do learn who to watch because some of them, like Macho, he's a really sweet goat and he's young, but he will come after me. He will try to come and like head me. And I don't know
Well, I
if
don't
it's an
think he's
aggressive thing. It's like
no, it's
he's
not.
just trying to, but he's one that I've learned I have to just watch him when I go in there because he wants to be like, and he's the goat in camp. We're literally spraying the spray bottle
Yeah.
with constantly because
So
he
he's
wants to
not
be right here.
he's not aggressive like danger wise, but he's one of those goats that doesn't like to be petted. So, a lot of the goats are easy. Like you pet them on their cheeks, pet them back here, and they're great. They just kind of lean up against you. Macho is odd. There's a lot of goats like this, but you go to pet him and he jerks his head away, and he's a little clumsy. But he's not. He's never been aggressive, like tried to hook anybody that I've seen, anything like that, or he'd get flipped and we'd deal with him. But there's never been any of that. So it's just you got to be careful with some goats. He doesn't like to be petted, and so he's not spazzy like Sam is, but he's just got his own personality. And you kind of deal with it. Each of them do. When I think of like the llama world, they're kind of the same way. We've had llamas that are afraid of their own shadow, and you got to watch them. They will stomp right through you if they hear something behind, they will run right through you to get away from whatever it is back there. Some llamas are not like that. Some of them are. So each one, and this is just something you figure out over time, like where that llama should be in the pack string and yada yada. It's the same thing with goats. So I think there's just over time you learn each one has its own thing. Like Nacho, for example, not Macho, but Nacho. He's one that he is very comfortable at the very back of the pack. He's going to be the back of the pack goat. Now he's a great goat, very good personality, but he's comfortable back there. Macho, no way. He is a lead.
No.
He's got to be
Maybe that's what I
in
mean
your
when
pocket.
he's up in your face. He's got to be in the front. So
He's
he's
got to
going to push
be
through.
right up front or he ain't happy.
Yeah.
And he's trying to figure out how to get up front. Nacho couldn't care less. He's not afraid of the mountain lion jumping on his back at the back of the pack. Whereas Macho is absolutely like
Well, then
fearful of
on
that.
our trip, we had this one experience. So the other thing that goats are afraid of, they're afraid of rain. They do not like rain and they do not like to get wet. And so, of course, whenever we go camping, it seems like it rains more than it's ever rained all summer long. There was more rainy days up
Yeah.
there than not. And I had this one experience with Joe. Joe is another one. He's kind of on the lower end of the totem pole. He's not an alpha. And I don't know, somehow he got in the back of the pack. And then we got kind of split up a little bit. And he was back there with me and I think Sam or whatever. And then they ended up behind me. And I stopped because it was so beautiful. I stopped in this clearing on the trail and I was taking some pictures. And the next thing I know, I look around, there's no goats. And I'm like, I think there was just Joe. He had been behind me. And he's literally like gone. And I think, did he pass me? I'm standing there like, did he go? So I walk up the trail a ways. I can see the end of the trail. He's not up there. Like, where did he go? Well, it had been raining and I don't know, like there was we were in these trees and I don't know if like some rain was hitting him or something. He boogied. He turned while I was taking a picture.
He lost sight of the goats.
He lost sight of the other goats because, they follow this lead. He took off down the trail. I mean, he must have ran so fast because I realized I had to turn around. I was running back down the trail trying to find him. He was so confused. He was like hiding in the trees. And they need that pack too. Like they need that or they get really confused. And I am not the lead packer, so they don't really follow me. They follow Ryan. Ryan is the person that they're looking for. So it was like he couldn't see the goats, he couldn't see Ryan, and he just took off the other direction. And that's when it was like, gosh, some of the goats do need, I felt like at the back of the pack, you see a lot more neuroticism than at the front. All the alpha goats want to be up front, and Ryan is obviously the alpha goat, so they all follow him. I'm in the back, and I see the neurotic ones trying to they're trying
Jockey
to get
for
it,
position,
jockey,
yeah.
constantly pushing each other off the trail.
Well, most of them are always worried about that monster that's behind them.
And they don't, and they'll follow
on
each
a
other over
lead.
like a cliff almost. So then we had this one area where it was all shaly rock. We're trying to walk across it. Because they're goats, I think they try to take the highest spot. They try to hike the highest, and some of it was they shouldn't be up there. Their panniers start falling off. Then they panic because they feel their panniers falling off, and then they're like running in the rock shale, and it's a little scary. But they tend to take the higher route, and so you have to.
That's the other thing.
They don't like water. They don't like to be in water. So when you have to bring them through water, even though we had them swimming one day, they were following us and they swam across the river, which was crazy, like dogs.
You gotta train them on the water. We had 2 young goats that hadn't had a lot of water training, and we got one of them buggers to swim, literally swim across the river. And all the other goats, none of them like to just run across water. They do. Mo and Crag do. They run through it. They don't care at all. Most of the goats that I've found, at least the ones that I have now, they're gonna look for another path, look for a log to cross, look for a good spot. Eventually they come through it. They'll figure out oh, those guys are going to leave me here, so I'm just going to go through it, and they'll just start walking through the water. But they're always going to try to find that magical spot where they don't have to get their feet wet. But that's something that you got to train them when they're young. So they need to be going through small creeks at an early age to kind of figure out it's not a big deal. But Hill mentioned the rain thing. Yeah, they do not like rain, so they will look for a tree to get under. Now, I always pack a tarp. With the goat trips, not every trip do I pack the tarp, but I've got this 16-foot tarp that will cover everything, and they can all get under it, and we can all get under there and sleep, and it's fine. But it's a weight hit. So this last trip, I didn't take the tarp at all. It's just, you can either take a tarp and have them not worry about the rain, or I've also had nights where, look, there's nothing we can do. They're going to get rained on. They're staked out. They get rained on. It is what it is. But they will look for a tree to get under. And so I will stake them under a tree with a little bit of a canopy. And they're just more comfortable under there. So if you can find that, then that's preferred, or pack a tarp. They really like that because they can get out of it and be completely out of the rain. But sometimes, like, there's a strategy when you go into these places. You can kind of get sucked into packing too much gear when you have pack animals. But I think of it like this, like I'm pretty much packing the exact same gear that I bring in on any hunt. Sometimes I'll bring an extra cot, which is an extra 2 pounds, but not much else, because the fact is, if you get an animal down, you're going to need all that capacity to haul the meat off. So I don't want all these excess pieces of gear that I don't need anyway to be weighing down my goats when I need those panniers full of meat. I don't want to have 20 extra pounds of junk, that I don't need, because I never have needed it in the past when I'm backpacking. And I think, we did our summer trip, and we're not packing anything off the mountain. So we're taking everything that we go in with back out, so we know the weight. But there was a lot of extras on that one. You take 3 girls into the mountains.
We had pillows.
You take a lot of extras. It was a nice camp. There's a lot of things that don't make it into a hunt camp. Not even close. There's no books or hairbrushes or extra pairs of boots when you go hunting. It's the minimal. So I keep it minimal. I try not to pack anything that, I don't want to be up there wishing I hadn't brought it when I have a 300-pound bull to break down and haul off the mountain. So I keep it very light. The only thing I pack extra in when I'm going in is water, which you dump out at the end of it, because some places you just don't know how the water is. So I'd rather have it on the goats when I go in, dump it out if I come out. And obviously food gets lighter and lighter. So I try not to get lured into packing extra items. And I think that's the case with any pack animals, maybe with the exception, obviously mules are amazing and they can take big weight, but llamas and goats, you keep it pretty tight. So I could really poke fun at Livesey for this one, because that man packs too much stuff, and from food to gear to you name it. But
I noticed Livesey's getting beat up a lot in this podcast.
Yes, deservedly so. He's a llama guy. He wants to do a goat versus llama podcast. We haven't done it yet, but I figure since he's not on this, I'll just throw him under the bus.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I think other than that, one of the things I really like now is I am getting older. It is nice having, it's weird to say, I got some company up there when I'm solo. Got some goats to talk to.
Wow.
Not just talking to myself. So, I've got some goats to keep me company up there. And the fact is they're entertaining. Like, when you're up there by yourself, it can be slow and mind-numbing just glassing for muleys all day. But goats are always entertaining. They're always something that they're doing something that makes you laugh. So that is, I would put in the pro department for me.
They're also the talk of the trail. When we were on our trip, I mean, everybody that we saw that hiked past us was taking pictures. People were taking pictures of the goats, asking questions. There were Forest Service guys up there that were like never seen goats. Back in the backcountry. So
yeah.
It was interesting to see that. People were really intrigued by that. Us having goats, especially with packs on. They were all like, wow, didn't know goats could do this. So it was That was another
There's
thing.
the talk of the forest on that trip for sure. But
Yeah.
yeah, people are really curious, yeah, I think I've ran into quite a few hunters now that are kind of thinking about it because they've seen me in some of these places and they're like, man, if you can have those animals out here and up here, I could see that as a big plus. So there's definitely that. I think the goat packing world is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger as people figure it out. Like as they invest in them, they learn a little bit about them. I probably haven't done the best job here on this podcast explaining everything, but again, they're affordable once you get the structure, the goat barn, the fencing, the gear, the panniers, the saddles. Not cheap, but it's an investment. But once you get that taken care of, it's at that point that's pretty affordable. The feed is pretty affordable. They don't eat you out of house and home by any stretch, and
They don't have huge vet bills. That's
no,
another thing. Always with animals, pack animals like this, horses, mules, llamas. Like I feel like the vet bills kill people, and they really are not.
yeah, you
We
get a
get checkups and
few
some
shots here and there, a
and
few vaccinations here and
they get their
there.
feet checked once in a while, and
Yeah, and we trim the hooves. It's really easy to trim them unless they're bone dry. Gotta
and
soften 'em up,
honestly,
but
like you can castrate them too. We did the banding, and
mhm,
they took a long time. It took way longer than we thought it was going to take. It took months for those to fall off,
mhm.
but that wasn't hard either
Yeah,
by
well, it
any
didn't take
means.
months, but
It took like two
it
months.
took weeks. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
it took almost
Because
3 months.
I put them on. I California banded them. I remember I was going into a hunt, and I did it like
It
10
was
days
it
before
was
the hunt.
before Alaska, and
Yeah,
then they just came off
it came off at
like
the end of it.
2 weeks ago or something. 3 weeks ago.
Oh, they've been off quite a while. Yeah, they've been off quite a while. But
Not
yeah, you do that
anymore.
we did it at 5 months, and we banded them at 5 months, and now we don't have ruddy bucks, which is great. And they're the sweetest little buggers ever. And and that was kind of the time frame that you want to do it. You want to try to avoid letting those goats that you want to have to be max growth, 200-pound type size. You castrate them prior to them going into the rut, where they got their hormones going and they get skinny and thin and they're not eating all the food and getting all the nutrients before they get crazy. So 3, 4, 5 months is kind of the norm. We go with 5 months, and that there's a lot of reasons. That's a whole nother podcast we could get into. I don't want to get into that stuff. And so anyway,
Cool.
that's the gist of my experience with pack goats at this point. I'm super happy with how things are going. I've got a couple of other big hunts this year. I try to take them on as many trips as possible. I actually build my hunts now thinking about the pack goats. I want to do more and more trips with them involved versus not having them involved. Obviously, Alaska, I couldn't take my goats, but every other trip since then, I want to make sure I get the goats out there working, and it's been a lot of fun.